The tale of Shiloh's weeping prophet.
In the days when the Ark of the Covenant rested in Shiloh, the town was known as the heart of Israel's spiritual life. Pilgrims journeyed from distant lands to offer sacrifices, seeking the blessing of the Most High. The streets were filled with travelers' songs, merchants selling incense and cloth, and the resonant hum of prayers. Shiloh was a place of reverence, but under the surface, an insidious complacency began to take root.
Elazar was a man set apart, though not by birth or station. His life was marked by simplicity, his garments plain, his dwelling a small, weathered house on the edge of town. But his eyes, deep-set and fierce, carried the stories of visions that few could understand. The townsfolk spoke of Elazar as a strange figure, a prophet whose warnings felt too grave for their times of prosperity. Yet, those who looked closer saw the quiet devotion that defined him. From childhood, Elazar had been gifted, or perhaps burdened, with visions. When others slept peacefully, he would awaken drenched in sweat, eyes wide as if seeing into another world. His mother, a gentle woman named Hadassah, would soothe him, singing psalms until dawn. "Elazar," she would whisper, "if the Lord speaks, you must one day share his words." And share he did, though it brought him little joy. The first sign came when Elazar was still a young man, a day when the sky turned a strange greenish hue and the wind carried whispers that made the elders shift uneasily. Elazar stood in the marketplace, eyes focused beyond the horizon, muttering of storms and shadows. The people, unsure of what to make of him, dismissed his words as the folly of youth. But the visions persisted, growing more vivid and urgent as the years passed. Elazar saw the Ark, once radiant and awe-inspiring, now dim and neglected, surrounded by priests who bickered and boasted instead of praying. He saw dark clouds, their edges crackling with lightning, rolling over Shiloh like an omen of loss. And always a voice echoed in his dreams, deep and sorrowful. "Speak, Elazar, for their hearts are turned away." The morning of his most significant vision began like any other. The sun climbed over Shiloh, casting warm light on the stone streets and clay rooftops. Children laughed as they chased each other past the temple gates, and merchants shouted about their wares, spices, fabrics, and small trinkets brought from distant lands. The priests, resplendent in their robes threaded with gold, moved through the temple with an air of entitlement. Elazar awoke with the weight of the vision pressing on his chest. His legs felt like lead as he made his way to the temple. The previous night, he had seen the Ark once more, but this time the storm was not in the distance. It was upon them, a raging tempest that tore through Shiloh's very heart. His voice was raw when he arrived at the temple steps, where the priests and elders were discussing the upcoming festival. "Brothers and elders of Shiloh," Elazar's voice, hoarse yet unwavering, cut through the low hum of conversation. The priests paused, turning to face the interruption. Abiron, the high priest who had succeeded Eli, furrowed his brow, the annoyance clear in his eyes. "What is it now, Elazar?" Abiron's tone was laced with thinly veiled irritation. The other priests smirked, exchanging knowing glances. "The Lord has spoken through my dreams," Elazar began, his eyes burning with urgency. "The Ark, our most sacred trust, lies neglected, not in ritual, but in spirit. You adorn it with gold and speak praises with your lips, but your hearts are far from it. The storm is here, and if you do not return to the Lord, he will turn his face from Shiloh." The chamber grew silent. For a heartbeat, it seemed as if the words had struck home. But then Hiram, a senior priest known for his ambition, let out a mocking laugh. "Elazar dreams of shadows again." He raised his arms theatrically, and the other priests chuckled. Abiron sighed, stepping forward. "Elazar, your devotion is known, but Shiloh prospers. The Ark is safe, our sacrifice is abundant. Your warnings are unfounded." Elazar's hands trembled as he clenched them at his sides. "Do not mistake prosperity for favor. The Lord's patience has a limit." But Abiron dismissed him with a wave, turning his attention back to the council. "Return to your prayers, Elazar. Leave the affairs of the temple to those chosen for them." Elazar stood for a moment, his heart heavy with despair. He turned and left, the murmurs of laughter following him out into the sunlight. The town bustled on as if nothing had happened, the warnings of a weeping prophet drowned out by the daily rhythm of life. That night, Elazar climbed the hill overlooking Shiloh, where he often prayed. He fell to his knees, the cool earth pressing into his skin, and raised his arms to the sky. Lord, they will not hear. Spare them, even in their stubbornness. Let not the ark be taken from them. As the stars blinked into the velvet sky, a chill wind began to rise. It whispered through the trees, and Elazar could almost hear it reply, "The time is near." The days turned into weeks, and Elazar's warnings faded from memory. The town thrived. Festivals lit the night sky with laughter and music, merchants grew richer, and the priests basked in their authority. But one late summer evening, as the sky darkened, a sudden wind swept through the town, carrying a chill that silenced even the most boisterous voices. Thunder rolled in the distance, deep and relentless, as clouds gathered with unnatural speed. The people looked up, unease growing in their hearts. At the edge of the city, Elazar stood once more on his hill, eyes fixed on the temple of Shiloh. The first drops of rain, cold and stinging, fell around him. A shout came from the western watchtower. "The Philistines, they're here!" The words rippled through the town, panic breaking like a wave. Warriors scrambled to their posts, and families gathered in terrified clusters. Inside the temple, the priests rushed in confusion, their fine robes. Now a hindrance. The ark, once the heart of their devotion, was now a desperate symbol of hope they could not hold. Chaos erupted as the Philistine soldiers stormed through the gates, overwhelming the defenders. Elazar watched as the doors of the temple were thrown open and the sacred ark was carried out by enemy hands. The cries of the priests filled the air, mingling with the crack of thunder and the pelting rain. In that moment, as Shiloh fell to ruin, a breeze passed over the hill where Elazar stood. Those who survived would later claim that, amid the screams and shouts, a voice whispered, his tears were not in vain. The storm passed, but Shiloh was left broken, the ark gone, and with it the spirit that had once held the town together. The priests who mocked Elazar's warnings lay among the fallen, their robes torn and soiled, no longer symbols of status, but remnants of misplaced pride. Elazar's name did not appear in the scrolls that followed, and his story faded into obscurity. Yet among the elders who survived, they whispered of him to their children, speaking of the prophet who wept for a city that would not listen, whose prayers were cries of love and warning. They said that on the morning after the storm, when the sun rose over the broken walls of Shiloh, a lone figure could be seen walking away from the ruins, disappearing into the mists of dawn. And though no one saw Elazar again, his legacy remained, a reminder that the warnings of the faithful, though ignored, are never without purpose. In time, Shiloh's ruins stood as a testament to the prophet's lament, echoing the truth that prosperity without devotion is a fragile thing, and the voice that cries out in the wilderness may one day be the last sound before silence.